40 years. So, Tom, thank you very much. Just come round and look at the cheap seats, see how they're going on down there. Good evening, I will pass back and see. Simon, that was probably the most inspirational introduction since I was MP for Stockport, and I went to one of the local clubs, and the chairman for the evening welcomed me. We mentioned before the bingo, we'll have a few words from our member of parliament, and you could feel the hostility coming up from the floor, and they got a very short speech. It is a great pleasure to come and speak for John Leech. In any campaign, in any election, the first thing to do is to find a good candidate, and of course you have got an excellent candidate with an excellent track record, and I'll come back to that later. But Kasim and I were trying to work out earlier, if I'm right and the election is on the 6th of May, and I don't think it's brain surgery to it, it's likely to be on the 6th of May, it would be 13 weeks on Thursday when we go to the polls, 93 days from now and counting. So the next few weeks are going to be very, very important for this party. I think we've got a very, very good chance. I think a lot of the things are coming together, not least a very unpopular government and an untrusted opposition that gives us some real opportunities. It is, and a lot of you are activists, it is always very odd. I've been in Campbell canvassing at the famous Crosby by-election for Shirley Williams, and they sent Ming and I down to the brutal end of the constituency where there are a lot of rather forbidding tower blocks. She took us through from the door right through to the back of the flat where there was a big picture window looking down. She said, "Look at that down there." So we looked through the window and we could see a pile of rubble and really messy look. She said, "Since those houses have been demolished, the council have done nothing. And in the winter, it's covered in mud. In the summer, it's covered in brambles." Like a good canvasser, I was taking all these details down. And I said, "Yes, when did the council actually demolish the houses?" She looked at me and said, "The council? The council? It wasn't the council, it was bloody Hitler." So the other thing, of course, is getting through to people at the door. One of our colleagues in Yorkshire, when canvassing, went up a garden path, knocked on the door, and a lady came out. He said, "I'm from the Babington and Brassington Liberal Democrats, and I want to know, can we rely on your vote?" She said, "You what?" I said, "I'm from the Babington and Brassington Liberal Democrats. Can we rely on your vote?" She said, "I'm sorry, young man." She said, "I can't. You'll just have to go away." So he started walking down the garden path, and as he reached the gate, she said, "Don't forget to shut the gate." And he said, "Bugger the gate." She said, "Yes, and bugger the Babington and Brassington Liberal Then there's the lady that said she never voted because it only encourages them. We are going into a campaign where, as I said, I think that we have got a real opportunity. Any campaign is based on three elements. As I said before, is the Iraq War. That was one of the great dividing issues of the last 50 years. And let us not let people forget it was the Liberal Democrats and the Liberal Democrats alone that stood out against that war, not the official opposition. who failed miserably to ask the right questions at that time. And certainly not people like Jack Straw. I've got to say, I've known Jack since our student days, and I saw a quote yesterday, a few days ago, by Lloyd George about Ramsay MacDonald that I thought could quite apply to Jack Straw. Lloyd George said of Ramsay MacDonald, he had enough conscience to trouble him, but not enough to keep him straight. And if you saw Jack's tortuous explanation, you saw why and how we got into that disastrous war. And I think it is important to say that at times, and I remember watching Charles Kennedy being booed and shouted down by all sides of the House and our benches when he tried to put the questions that should have been put, as I say, by the... and I think that record of standing firm, of being willing to take the tough decisions, stands it well as we go into this campaign. There's no doubt that this election is not going to be a massive auction of ever more expensive promises. We're going to have to put the economy right, and we're going to have to ask for sacrifices across the communities. But again, I would point out that it's our party that has made it clear that if we are going to have sacrifices, those sacrifices should come from the top, not from the bottom. I said last week in the House of Lords, I recently spoke out against an ASLEV dispute on a railway line near where I live, which was causing great trouble to local commuters. And I said that kind of trade unionism wasn't fair, where it caused disproportionate suffering to communities, and that drivers should have a greater sense of social responsibility. But how do you talk to people in either the public sector or the private sector and ask them for restraint, ask them for shared sacrifice, if they see in the banking industry the bonus culture running rampant and bankers paying themselves in telephone numbers? It just is not going to carry the social cohesion that we need to get through a very difficult period. Or put it more poignantly, I recently saw a soldier's father, a soldier who had been killed in Afghanistan, and the father said his son, and he himself believed that what his son had been doing had been in the service of his country, and that he was proud of that sacrifice. And I thought, well, how do you explain to a father like that, who has said that he is proud of that sacrifice, that there are people in the City of London who say, give us all that we want, or we're going to go and live abroad? You can't hold a society together on that basis of greed. And I think that one of the things that has been key to the start of this campaign is that both Nick Clegg and Vince Cable have come out at the front, putting forward a limited programme of focused expenditure